Everybody. We are back and better than ever. We're back with VolleyTalk after missing a couple of weeks, but today we are going to be talking about gear and how to train with gear and what it really does for you. So I'm Darian, your regular on here, and then we also have Billy. Billy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, Billy Glisson, PowerCore 360 founder, strength coach, exercise physiologist, been involved with volleyball 20, 25 plus years.
Yeah, awesome. So one big thing that PowerCore 360 has or does is trains in gear. That is gear that Billy developed. So Billy, do you want to just kind of talk about how this gear first got developed and what its goal is to do for athletes?
Sure, I think that the short story is it allows an athlete to do a couple things. Number one, we teach mechanics. It allows the athlete to feel the mechanics, and mechanics we're talking about the turn of the hips, turn of the shoulders, movement of the arms in very precise, specific ways. So one, it allows athletes to feel that. Number two, maybe more importantly, then it allows you to strengthen the muscles around the hips and pelvis, the spine, the chest and shoulders, and the arm and shoulder. All the muscles we're going to use the whole body to hit the ball harder. Increase arm speed, but hit the ball harder using the whole body versus just swinging your arm at it.
For sure. And do you want to kind of talk about where this stemmed from? Where did you get this idea of, okay, I should create this gear for
Yeah,
athletes?
I mean, it's a long story, and I'll try to be as succinct as I can. It started because 20 something years ago, I was trying to learn to play golf. I grew up playing basketball, didn't do anything rotationally like volleyball, baseball, softball, where you turn your body and hit or struck a ball or an object or something. And so, anyway, I was trying to learn to play golf. All my buddies were scratch golfers. They'd been playing in high school and in college. And here I was in my late 40s trying to figure it out. So I'm watching videos, and I essentially took a German sewing machine I had bought when we were in Texas, and I constructed my first prototype, right? And it was a hip harness. I took a weightlifting belt and I modified it to go around the hips, put some loops and things on it. And I was out in my garage, I had a squat rack. I attached a rubber resistance band to one of my hips, picked up a golf club in the garage and kind of turned the right way, and it swung my hips through. The club came coming through, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm onto something here. I could feel it, right? And I could feel how to turn my body because I didn't know how to do it. I understood the concept, but I'm a feel person. And so many athletes are feeling based. They learn based, and they learn faster when they can feel something. Anyway, fast forward, moving forwards, I was working with Front Range Volleyball Club in Denver, and Jim, the director down there, gosh, in volleyball, long, long time ago, we took a 16-year-old outside hitter, and he asked me, like, hey, does this stuff you're doing for golf actually work with volleyball with hitters? And I said, I don't know, let's try it. So we took a hip harness, took a sophomore in high school down there he was working with, took some video of her, took her on the court, had her swing. It was very, very much arm. And then we took her through a golf protocol, believe it or not, in a hip harness for about 10 minutes. And then finished the protocol, had her go back in the air and hit. Her body's turning. She's hitting the ball harder. She looks at Jim. And by the way, her shoulder was inflamed when she started. She looked at Jim and said, Jim, my shoulder doesn't hurt anymore. And we were both like, okay, well, this is interesting. That's where it kind of started in volleyball. We started working with it with front range. It evolved. Of course, they still use the equipment to this day, as well as many other clubs and colleges and schools use it. But that's where it actually got started. And it was just a way to allow this athlete in Denver, the sophomore hitter, to learn how to turn her hips and see what that would do for her arm swing. And so, yes, it allowed her to hit the ball harder, took the stress off her shoulder, and it does everything we want it to do. But it also then provided strength, right? It strengthened the muscles that turn the hips, turn the spine, turn the shoulders, and then protect the arm in the process. Sorry, I told you it was long-winded.
No, that's all good. That's a great answer. So basically that's how it's developed, everybody, or where it came from and how it got to the volleyball world. But we have very specific exercises that also go with the gear. And by the way, this is gear that you can't get anywhere else. This is strictly PowerCore 360 gear. So there's nothing really else like this on the market for athletes. So this is we're gonna take you through some of the drills and things that we do with our athletes in the gear. So if you do have the gear, or you're looking to come to a clinic and get the gear where you'll learn stuff, but you also just want to reference back maybe into what more of the gear exercise look like and what each exercise is meant to do for you. That's what we're going to do today. So we're going to go through a couple of the exercises, maybe 2 or 3, and then we'll go from there. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this gear. But yeah, today we're just going to give you some of the basic exercises that we take a lot of athletes through. So we're going to start with the torso harness. Do you want to talk about this drill, Billy? What are they? I'm going to pull up
Yeah.
a video on the screen
Pull up
and
the
then
video and we'll see what we got, and we'll talk through it. So actually, we've got the hip harness on in this case, and this is a clinic we did this summer, and this just shows the athletes in the clinic with a hip harness on. And so let's talk about this. The strength training is important, and I'm a strength coach, but what we do isn't just general strength training. It's not going in the gym and doing the classic traditional squats, lunges, RDLs, bench press. Those are all great general exercises that will make you generally stronger, but none of those really teaches the body to rotate, right? And so we're teaching like a throwing motion or a rotational hitting movement, right? But it's super specific in terms of what we want the athlete to be able to do. How do they turn their hips? How do they turn their torso? How do they move their arm? Very specifically, not generally, right? So with that being said, in this case, if you want to play that video, these athletes have a hip harness around the top of the hips and pelvis. And once again, as this video plays, I'll just kind of talk over the video. They're working on rotating their hips. And in this case, we've got, looks like a right-handed hitter here on the end. That gentleman looks like a guy is facing the right antenna. And the objective here is to turn the hips, turn the belly button, if you would, which would be the hips and pelvis from right antenna to left. The band that's hooked onto the hip harness, it's a black band. Unfortunately, everybody's in our black shirts, and he's got black shorts on. It's hard to see, but you see the black band where Darian's pointing there. And the band is hooked to his left hip. Here's what happens. As he steps and tries to turn his hips from right to left, as he's hitting a ball into the net, it's resisting the turn of the hips and pelvis, right? And so if you resist, it's like resistance training. That's strength training. If you put a dumbbell in your hand or a band in your hand or a kettlebell in your hand and you do a pressing movement as you're laying on the bench, like doing a bench press or something like that, that increased resistance makes the muscles you're using to do that pressing movement stronger, right? If you do that a couple, 3 times per week, then you're going to get stronger in those muscles that perform that movement. So in this case, where we've got a band resisting the turn of the hips from right to left, what we're actually doing is activating, turning on, engaging the muscles that turn the hips and belly button from right to left. And so we do 3 sets of 5. We take the bands off, and then, as you know, Darian, the magic happens. You're activating and turning muscles on when the bands are on, but the real magic happens that the athlete can really feel at the end of their 3 sets of 5. 3 sets of 5 is not very much. So in about 5 minutes, we've turned on these hip muscles. We disconnect the band, and then we tell the athlete to hit the ball into the net. And now the hips on their own, because they're activated, they're turned on, they're engaged. The hips turn, the belly button turns fast. Now the arm speed is immediately faster. The ball speed is immediately faster. And so if we did this movement with resistance against the hip and we did it 3 times per week and we used our equipment, right? And our equipment is not only the hip harness, but it's a resistance band, and we use different resistance bands that have different tension in them, right? So we start off in a clinic with pretty light bands. But if you did this 3 times per week, every couple of weeks, you're going to need to add more resistance, right? You're going to have a heavier, more resistant band resisting the turn of the hips. When you do that, the muscles that turn the hips and turn the hips with more power and speed, that'll increase arm speed and all that great stuff to hit harder, they're going to get stronger. They'll allow you to turn with more power, more speed, and take the stress off the hitting shoulder. So that's really what you're seeing here is an exercise in the clinic, is the band being resisting the hip turn. And I don't know if in this video it shows that, but once again, you take the band off after 3 sets of 5 after a couple of minutes, and then hit. And man, those hips are now flying. The belly button's turning through fast. We do it on the ground, and then of course we go into the air and say, now take that same feeling and strengthen those muscles, go in the air and see what it feels like now to pound the ball with your hips turning fast. So that's kind of where we start especially when we're starting with a new athlete, is like most young hitters in volleyball, right? they just swing their arms out. They don't step, they don't turn their hips, they don't turn their chest and shoulder, they don't open and close in volleyball language, right? They just swing their arm at us. So we start with the hips, especially with a new athlete. We get the hips turning from right to left, take the band off, and it doesn't even really honestly matter where the arm's at. But now when the hip starts turning faster, the arm's coming through faster right now. The sound you'll hear when the hand hits the ball is faster because you're creating more body turn, more arm speed. With more arm speed, when you make contact with the ball, you're getting more ball speed. You're hitting the ball harder.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of that's just the start of what that can do for you, especially with just the hip harness there. So that drill specifically for sure at clinics, I mean, we definitely see the magic happen with that drill specifically. Kids will almost get out of control with their body because they've never had something resist and then take off and feel so much stronger instantly. So it is kind of a shock at first. We had a comment actually on um, Instagram, and it was, um, I still use the equipment to this day, and everything like that, but, that's just one comment I guess we've gotten. But audience, if you do have any questions or anything about this gear that you, want to know, just let us know and we can try to answer those, to the best of our ability. I'm sure we got an answer for you here. So, um, good time to ask those questions now throughout this as we're going through the different drills. So that was to summarize what's going on with the hip harness, but we're going to go further into this and talk about your torso and what's the difference between the torso and the hip harness. And we're also going to get into the armbands and what that really does for your swing as a volleyball player. So I'll pull up this next video here so we can talk about the torso harness. Let me just switch the video. All right. Okay, so here is the torso video. I'm going to play this for you. And Billy, if you want to start by explaining, what's the difference between the torso movement and the hip movement, and what's the difference in the goal, etc.
Sure. And so what you're going to see here is now we have athletes kneeling on the ground, kneeling. These are all typically right-handed hitters. They're facing the right antenna once again. They're kneeling and sitting up tall. And this harness now is no longer on around the hips. And once again, it's hard to see. The torso harness sits on the bottom of the rib cage, right? Which is the upper torso. And then what we're teaching them first is just literally how to open their chest to the right sideline and then close it against the resistance of the band to the left sideline. That's what happens in a world-class swing, in which, by the way, quick sidebar, I was watching the USA men today beat Brazil, right? And I watched everybody that's come to our clinic or seen any analysis. Matt Anderson had an unbelievable event today. TJ DeFalco are both people, the guys that play for the U.S. men's team. The mechanics they use are exactly what we teach. They're good models to watch. And if you watch them hit, you'll see kind of very similar to what's going on here. You're going to see me turn her to the right so you can see her arms crossed, turn her chest then to the left. That would be the left sideline if you were standing on the court. They're all kind of kneeling on the 10-foot line, the attack line there, and I'm turning her from right antenna to left because she's turning her chest and shoulders now through the resistance, and it's resisting her turn of her chest and shoulders from right to left. When we take the bands off now, it's going to do two things. It's going to help her open her chest to the right sideline, which you see the world-class hitters like Anderson, DeFalco, anybody male or female. I actually watched the women today win as well. But anyway, they open their chest and then they close their chest. They turn from the right sideline to the left. Their hip goes first, the chest and shoulders go second. That allows them to use the muscles of the hips, the pelvis, the abdominal muscles, the back, the chest, the shoulders. Haven't even touched the arms yet, right? This is the core of the body. The core of the body, when we get it to open and then to close, we make it stronger and get it to turn faster, is going to increase the arm speed. In other words, they're going to swing harder with less effort from their arm and shoulder because the big muscles around everywhere from the thigh up through the hips, core, chest, and shoulders are turning the body, increasing what we call body torque, right? Rotation of the torso, the core. And then in just a second, what may happen, you may see it here, is in the second set, We'll have them bring the arm down. But once again, we are doing specific strength training for the muscles that turn the chest and shoulders, open them to the right sideline, which what should be happening if you're an outside hitter or even a middle, or even a right side hitter going in the air. We're going to have them open their chest to the right sideline, and then their hips and belly button turn to the left, and then the chest follows the hip turn. That creates all this power from the big muscles of the body. It increases the arm speed, and it takes the stress off of the hitting shoulder, and it adds to the power for the arm and ultimately the ball. So sorry, a lot going on there, but in a simple sense, man, we're using their core. We're strengthening the muscles to turn the chest and shoulders, to open them and close them to create more power.
For sure. So I just wanted to re-emphasize something here so we're very clear about what each one is goal of the drill is. So again, if you can maybe list like two very short like key points for what the goal of the hip harness is
Yeah.
versus torso
Build,
harness.
build mechanics, give the athlete the feeling of how to properly turn their hips. Same thing with the
Okay?
torso harness, and then build strength. Strengthen the muscles that either turn the hips from right to
Mhm.
left or the torso from right to left. All of that will increase arm speed. You'll hit the ball harder, and you'll take the stress off of the shoulder because the whole body's working with the arm and shoulder.
For sure. And with these drills then, how do athletes learn the correct sequence then to move their body in? So for the torso, we're having them open up, then close. For the hip, we're just having them close from right to left. So how do they put that together after the drill? What does that
Well,
sequence look
yeah,
like?
one of the huge benefits of the harnesses and using resistance band with harnesses is feel, right? Athletes learn predominantly through seeing and through feeling. So we obviously show them the video first of what we want them to do, what the world class hitters like Matt Anderson does, right? And then one of the Brazilian hitters, the females, right? And then what we do is then, all right, we let them feel it. And the bands, when they put the resistance bands on, turn the hip, turn the torso, or both, they can immediately feel, oh, that's what you mean by opening, right? That's what it means to really open your chest to the right sideline. That's what it means, and that's what it feels like then to do those movements. When you can feel it, now you can go repeat it and you can build muscle memory. But otherwise, it's like the athlete's like, I don't know if I did that right or not, right? They can now train with assistance, with an instructor, or once they learn how to do it, they can do it on their own, right? Because they're getting the feel for how to perform the movement properly.
For sure. So, athletes, I think the main thing that you wanna learn there is you wanna be able to feel this, movement in your body, but also I think one key that you can feel once you take this off is can you still feel that stretch in your abdomen in your abs, I guess.
Right.
We're not saying big words today, I guess, on here. But yeah, if you can feel that stretch in your abs as as your torso is opening to the right sideline and as your hips are starting to close to the left sideline, you'll feel that stretch. If you even just do that now, start moving your torso to the one sideline and then move your hips the other way, you'll start to feel that stretch there, and that's what really generates a lot of power there for you.
And one other thing this is probably technical, but actually it's really important. Um, they're getting two benefits at once. You're like killing two birds with one stone. As they're working on and turning their chest or their hips from right to left, they're feeling the proper mechanics, but because there's resistance there, they're strengthening at the same time. So you're building strength and mechanics at the same time. You don't have to go work with your hitting coach and then go to the strength coach and do 2 different days. You're doing both at the same time. And as soon as you take those bands off, you're ready to hit, right? Whether you're hitting on the ground, hitting a serve, going in the air, turning on one right side, left side, back row, serving, whatever you're doing, you're going right now and everything's on and you can feel it. So it's not like you have to have a hitting lesson and then you got to go do strength and conditioning for 3 weeks. It's like, no, take the band off, you're feeling it and you're hitting it faster right now. And now go do it 3 times a week like you would any strength program. And guess what? Your power, your speed, your torque, the ball, you're going to hit the ball harder, protect your shoulder and your back in the process.
For sure, yeah. I think that's something that we see in a lot of athletes, and I think that that's a big difference, that you see in all of our athletes is that they're able to just get the strength in very specific volleyball training because of the gear. This gear and the resistance, it strengthens your body, um, and not in a way that people would think of strength. Like they wouldn't think of bands as strength necessarily. They'd maybe think of weights or squatting, all of those kinds of things. But this truly does strengthen your body in a very volleyball specific way, and you'll be able to see those results a lot faster then because it's so volleyball specific.
Yeah,
So you're able to translate it into your sport.
technically, just really, I'm going to touch on that really quickly. You bring up a good point. Some people just think if you're not lifting a barbell or a dumbbell, a physical weight, then you're not loading muscles, you're not getting stronger. You just need load. The load can come from many different types of load. Resistance bands work really well, right? Especially for younger athletes. When we're dealing with 13 and 14-year-olds, right, which is probably the biggest volume or biggest age group we work with young hitters, helping them develop, they're not ready to go lift a bunch of big heavy weights, but they can handle body weight. They can use resistance bands, and it will activate and make their shoulders, the hips, the core stronger, faster. And really, whether they're 13 or 23, it'll work for either. We can take a heavier resistance band and go put one of the Olympians in the bands, and in 2 minutes, they'll feel the same thing. They'll move faster, they'll feel stronger, they'll hit the ball harder immediately.
For sure. Yeah. So that's the hip and torso, but we're gonna go over one more drill here for you guys today, and it's going to be the arm motion drill with the bands. So Billy, I'm gonna play a video here, but will you talk them through what does the
Sure.
arm motion drills, what benefit do those have for the athletes?
Yeah, and I think it's maybe a little counterintuitive. Somebody that jumps on and doesn't understand why do you turn your hips? Why do you turn your shoulders and chest? Why do you do all that? We're trying to develop arm speed. Well, you can develop arm speed a couple of different ways, good ways and bad ways. You can do what a lot of the athletes do when they come into our clinics. All they've been hearing is arm speed. They swing their arm, their shoulder hurts, their back hurts. They're not hitting the ball as hard as they could, and of course their shoulders inflame. It's lit up, it hurts, whatever. That's one way to do it. What we want them to do is do what every other sport in the world does that throws or hits something overhead, right? The Olympics are on right now. You're watching people like today, hammer throwers, right? Congratulations to the U.S. lady. She took second. She took the silver today in the hammer, right? You think I'm doing anything but watching the Olympics, Darren? But anyway, I'm watching rotational athletes. Rotational athletes, when they get stronger through their core, build mechanics and build strength, they're going to do better. Well, ultimately, we're talking about a volleyball player and arm speed here. The best way to develop arm speed is whole body rotation. Watch them as they do this. We're working on the arm here, but what are they doing first? They are stepping. They're taking a movement straight ahead, a linear movement, we call it. And then the hips and belly button turn from right to left. We taught that into the hip harness, right? The chest opens from the right sideline to the left. Now, when we go into the arm mechanics, we now have a cuff right above the elbow, and there's a light resistance band there, and it's resisting the turn and the movement of the arm and shoulder, the hitting arm and shoulder. For the girl in the blue and the guy in the black, they're both right-handed. You'll see the band connecting to the right elbow. It's loading up. It's putting load or tension on the muscles on the front of the shoulder, the deltoids, the chest muscles, the internal rotators, and it actually opens the chest and then resists the movement of the arm coming up. As you can kind of see, we go from an elbow and a neutral shoulder all the way up to taking the elbow up just prior to contact with the ball. So it looks like they're going through a throwing motion. They are, but the throwing motion and hitting motion are the same thing. We want them to step, turn their hips, bring the arm up, go to contact. And so what they're in essence doing here is now strengthening the muscles of the rotator cuff, the shoulders, because we've already done the hips, we've already done the torso. Now we're adding the icing to the cake, and we're saying, okay, you want good arm speed, then step, turn your hips, turn your shoulders, and use your arm, chest, and shoulders, rotator cuff, shoulder muscles to hit the ball harder. So that's what they're doing here. Same thing would happen. You disconnect the band after a couple of sets of 5 to 10 reps, right? 2 or 3 minutes later, you take it off. And guess what's going to happen? With no resistance on there, these muscles on the chest, the shoulder, the rotator cuff are going to come firing through. The athlete's immediately going to feel their arm and their elbow come through fast, their hand come through fast. They'll feel the arm speed, they'll feel the ball speed. And as you know, oftentimes a lot of athletes, when they take the bands off, they look at you with a big smile. They don't necessarily can put it into words, but it's like, oh, this is really cool. I can feel my hips turning faster. I can move, I can feel my arm and my hand and the ball coming through faster. It's all very specific mechanics training and very specific strength training integrated together into, in this case, 3 drills. One for the hip, one for the torso, one for the arm, chest, and shoulder.
Yeah, for sure. Um, One thing I want to ask a question about is, Billy, what's the difference of them strengthening their arm this way versus doing bicep curls or bench press, all the normal kind of strengthening things that you hear?
Yeah, think of it as movements. And the probably the best thing I learned when I went and became a strength coach, a performance coach to work with athletes is a lot of trainers are learned to, and bodybuilders will strengthen muscles, right? So they go in the gym and they're trying to build their biceps or their triceps or their back or whatever. They're very focused on developing a muscle or the size or the look of a muscle, right? With athletes, you're trying to train movements. So when we talk about specific training, we're trying to teach the specific movements we want for a hitter, first to learn to throw and then to take that throwing motion into hitting. So whether they're throwing or hitting, it's a lot of the same muscles, it's a lot of the same movements. So we're actually training the specific movements. We don't really care to get into, I mean, we could dissect it and say, okay, it's your anterior delt, it's your pec major, it's this, it's that, it's the other. We don't care about that. What we're trying to do is to say, we want to perform the movements of an arm, of a good, proper rotational arm speed movement, which means hips are turning, torso's turning, arms are coming, hitting arms coming through in a specific way. And if we're doing it against resistance, we're the athletes feeling the proper mechanics so they can repeat it and build muscle memory. And then they're also, more importantly, building strength, power, right? To increase the arm speed to hit the ball harder in a very specific way that's going to carry over into actually hitting. The problem with doing a bench press, right, is a bench press is a great general exercise. I'm using two arms pressing forward, but look, there's no opening and closing. There's no rotation of my chest and shoulders. It's all arm movement. So if I want to get better at doing a bench press exercise, then do a bench press exercise, right? But if I want to perform the movements of throwing or hitting, I need to perform some throwing and hitting movements against resistance. And I need to be able to have some heavier, slower reps, and then I need to be able to go faster with it. We go faster when we take the bands off. And in fact, we actually, you know the drill, we hit balls, we throw balls, and then we hit balls. We go in the air at like at game speed, right? So it's like it actually converts into volleyball hitting versus our goal is not to get stronger. Our goal is to build strength, to build explosive power and speed in the swing, in the hit.
Yeah, so you're going to hit harder basically, but it's
Yeah,
not going to be, your goal isn't to then have huge biceps, right? Like your goal is to get this muscle moving stronger and faster so you can hit the ball harder.
yeah, yeah. And go replay back the men's USA team today and look at Matt Anderson. This is his third Olympics, if not his fourth. The DeFalco's is probably his second, maybe third. They're not huge guys. They're fit. You're going to look at them. They're lean. They're fit, but they're not huge, massive biceps and pecs and all that. That's bodybuilding, right? They have powerful, lean, long muscles that will create speed, right? Speed of the hand, speed of the arm to rotate their body, hit the ball hard. And short, bulky muscles create power and speed, maybe for weightlifting, but they're not great for building arm speed and hand speed. So, once again, what we're doing is highly, highly specific. The end result, our end goal, our objective is to increase arm speed and ball speed and hitting movements, right? Not developing muscles to get bigger and stronger per se, right? We're developing a sports movement, a sports performance movement here. That's our objective.
Exactly. Yep. So those are kind of the different drills that we wanted to walk you through today. We had hip, torso, and arm motion. Again, there are so many drills that we have our athletes do and advance as they get in the gear and they get stronger, and switch out bands and everything like that. So if you want some more information about that, or you want to work with us on or through the gear, and also get better at hitting or anything like that, you can also check out our website. We have some new fall clinics up, and we also have the power hitting masterclass that runs year round. So that's remotely, and you could do that at any point, including during season. You could do it at night after practice and just practice your arm motion, stuff like that, to really get better while you're training in season as well. I'm gonna finish up today with one question we have from Instagram. And Billy, is there any tips on spiking that you can give that maybe let's talk about it from a gear perspective. So is there any tips on spiking that you can give from a gear perspective of How does it make your hitting better, and how can you hit
Yes.
harder here?
Yes. The first thing we teach, here's one of our secrets, open the chest to the right sideline, right? The kneeling exercise, the number two exercise we showed in the torso harness, gives the athlete the flexibility, the mobility, if you would, to actually open their chest to the right sideline in the air. Their hip's not going with it, but we're trying to get that stretch to where the athlete can actually turn there. If the athlete's not working rotationally, if all they're doing is planks and things like that, those are great exercises to hold your body and your spine still. Athletes who rotate, like in volleyball in this case, to answer the question is, one of the first drills we want them to be able to do is turn their chest to the right sideline. So they have to work on the strength and flexibility for their spine to actually turn. If this is my hips and this is my chest and shoulders, the chest and shoulders need to be able to turn. Doing a plank isn't going to develop that. A plank's going to hold everything still together. Great exercise, not very specific for a volleyball athlete, right? So, exercise or answer number one is in the torso harness, turn your chest to the right sideline, open in the air, right? And some of the volleyball coaches out there will give the athletes, tell them to open more. That's what we're talking about. Open your chest and shoulders, your sternum, and turn it to the right sideline. When the athlete learns how to do that, they will immediately hit the ball harder because they're using their abdominal and back muscles to hit the ball. On the hips and pelvis, right? If I don't care where your arm goes, I don't care if you open and close your chest and shoulders, all really good, all really important things to do. But for so many athletes, obviously volleyball in this case, but we've done it with football quarterbacks, baseball pitchers, baseball hitters, softball, same thing. If you just get the hips turning from right to left, if you're a right-handed hitter, to go from right antenna to left, the harnesses by activating the muscles that turn the hips and belly button from right to left, in the gear, immediately they will hit the ball harder, no matter where the arm is at or no matter how they move the arm. High elbow, low elbow, whatever you want to call it. The rotation of the body will whip the arm through faster. The athlete will immediately hit the ball harder, right? So those are two with the torso harness, one with the hip harness. Then strengthen, this last one's kind of like a duh. If you strengthen your arm and chest and rotator cuff muscles, and now they're stronger, they're going to be able to create more force, more power, more speed. So when the hand actually hits the ball, the hand's moving faster. If the hand hits the ball squarely, the ball's coming off the hand faster and harder as well, right? More velocity, you got a better chance of hitting a ball that's going to create a point, going to get a kill.
For sure. So those are hopefully some tips. If you're going to take away anything from this, review what Billy just said, go back and watch it again. This will be posted to YouTube and Instagram. So if you want to know what should I take away from this, rewatch what Billy just said, and hopefully that you can start implementing those into your everyday training for volleyball. But yeah, if you guys want to come back, or if you guys have any suggestions or any other questions for us, feel free to leave a comment under this live stream, and we'll be sure to either answer it in the next live stream or in the future, um, or just on a video or anything like that. We can definitely help you out. If you are interested in, like we said, clinics, we now have 4 clinics available for this fall. So those signups are open now. And then also we have the masterclass and the power hitting masterclass and the vertical jump masterclass are of course available year round, like I said. So if you want to check those out, the link is in all of our social bios to go to the website and check out what those masterclasses are about. And yeah, so thank you guys for all joining. Next week we'll be back on Tuesday again. We're kind of back on our regular streaming, I guess you could say, after a very busy clinic season this summer. So I know we missed a few there, but we were training you guys up. So yeah, these next few months, hopefully we'll be able to be a little bit more consistent for you guys and get here every single Tuesday. So thank you guys.